Is it a small sin for you to weary man? But will ye weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Immanuel, which means God is with us.
Where in the entire Quran will you find anyone attacking the Muslims first? This may come as a surprise for you. I've read through the Quran multiple times. You know what Muslims interpreted as oppression in the Quran?
If I came to you in the park and said, come and join, become a Muslim,
Yeah.
and you said no, and that's all that happens, no, I'm not oppressing.
Clearly. In other words, if anyone did that, if anyone claimed that to be oppression, that would be wrong. Where the Jews attack the Muslims first.
You accept that Muslims believe that this book, Quran, is timeless. Not just 7th century Arabia to yes?
But this is a historical detail given in a historical background. If you read Surah number 9, Surah At-Tawbah, it's essentially some sort of a war manual. It was a war manual for the war that was happening at that time.
MashaAllah, top man.
At that time.
I was wrong about what I said.
Sure.
The Pakistanis, they're
So-
like, they're shit.
No, we're
I hate them, man.
That's not okay.
I don't like them.
It was good to see you.
Yeah, so, whatever was said, doesn't matter. It's nonsense.
Okay.
MashaAllah.
Perfect.
Stop. You could have knocked me out of the park.
Alright, perfect.
But this one is like
No, we're
Pakistani
talking about something very
I
important.
agree with that.
That's fine.
I condemn it.
At least you're a sensible man. This is what I told you. You are one of the more sensible people who are walking around the park. I saw this. The first couple of times I thought, well, this is one of the nutters again. And later times, you have clearly changed. You've turned into a new leaf and so on, which is really good.
No, I've not. Okay.
Which is really good. The first couple of times your behavior wasn't, but that's fine. We can leave that aside. Youngsters, whatever. But now you're wonderful. I really appreciate. But Mustafa, we need to understand this detail. All through the Quran, you will not find a record of the Jews attacking Muslims prematurely, preemptively, first, before the Muslims caused trouble. It did not happen. And so the back there is really for the English audience, just to make sure they, give a defensive view. Nowhere in the entire Quran will you find anyone attacking the Muslims first. This may come as a surprise for you. I've read through the Quran multiple times. You know what Muslims interpreted as oppression in the Quran?
Sorry, what's the question?
The Muslims, the early Muslims in the Quran, the Muslims recorded in the Quran, actually interpreted that some other people oppressed them. You know what that oppression was about? Well, it was firstly and foremost, it was essentially them not receiving their religion.
Okay.
Essentially, when they went to preach Islam, these guys rejected, and that they saw as oppression. Would you call that an oppression?
Which part?
If you come to spread Islam, and if I said, I don't care about Islam, I don't want to follow Islam, am I oppressing you?
Simply that in a vacuum, the context. If I came to you in the park and said, come and join, become a Muslim,
Yeah.
and you said no, and that's all that happens, no, I'm not oppressing.
Clearly. In other words, if anyone did that, if anyone claimed that to be oppression, that would be wrong. And that is what happened in the Quran. Essentially, are you checking some Quranic passages?
No, I'm checking if there was any wars where Muhammad was attacked first.
Yeah, please check. You will find later brainwashing, but in the Quran itself, you will not find. And that is my challenge. Hadiths and everything else, make up a storyline, give you, this is what I told you. Hadiths as late literature build up an entire history which didn't exist according to the early sources.
Wait, so you're saying what are you saying? You're saying there was times where Muhammad was attacked first?
Not according to early contemporary evidence, no.
No, wait, Quranic evidence or?
Early evidence, when you consider early sources, hadiths come from centuries later, you know it. Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, these are literature from centuries later by people who lived in faraway lands, who came over and they said, we have collected some material and so on. Who needs to believe in these things unless there is a good reason to believe? The early sources, the early evidence are the Quran itself and archaeology in Hijazi area.
You're saying that there are claims of Muhammad being attacked first, but there's not any let's say historical data outside of.
There is no contemporary historical evidence. What we would consider as evidence, 300 years later, someone can come and say, in the 21st century, Speaker's Corner was rubbish, and so on. They can say anything they want 300 years later. But if there is no evidence from right now, from 21st century, then we can say, well, your claims are nonsense, not consistent with evidence available from today. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Contemporary evidence from during the time of supposed Muhammad, which are things such as the Quran itself, and things such as rock inscriptions, coins, early Islamic coins, and so on. You can use any of these. There are plenty of. There are thousands of inscriptions in the entire Hijaz area. Thousands of them in Arabian Peninsula. You can use all of them to construct a history. You can use actually the Quran alone to construct a history of how Islam began. I'm writing a book on that right now. Because the Quran gives plenty of historical data points, plenty of information about conflicts, different interaction and so on. But what you find is none of them testify. Oh, my camera died, sorry. I need to change the battery. Give me 2 minutes, yeah? One second.
I'm talking to you now, but I'm going to go around and look at other debates, okay?
But Mustafa, you need to engage with the points I'm making. Not now, you can, of course, but you really need to another time. Because this is very important. If what I'm saying is true, then these are serious stuff. Okay. Yeah, you need to leave Islam and so on. So please, I'd like you to